Welcome to Frequent Miler on the Air with Greg and Nick. This week we're going to be talking about whether the Sapphire Reserve is really worth the new $550 annual fee. But before we get into that, you know what time it is, Nick?
I do. It's my favorite segment of the week. I look forward to it all week long.
It is reader feedback time. And this week, well, you know what? Last week we skipped reader feedback time in favor of confession time.
Right. And we don't need any more of that.
Well, that segment was wildly popular, though.
Oh, it was?
Wildly popular, right. So I'm just going to give you, we are going to do reader feedback time, but first I'm going to give you, since I did confession last week, I'm going to just give you a chance. If you have anything to confess, this is your opportunity.
What could I possibly have to confess this week?
Well, if you didn't spend your Amex credits before the end of the year properly, something like that.
Like that might be something to add into the confession. So forgive me. I've made a couple of major sins with my Amex annual credits, my annual airline credits.
A couple of major sins, not just one.
Well, it's the same sin. I just repeated it.
Okay.
But it compounded itself. So it's worth explaining, because not only did I make a big mistake, but I compounded it by creating another mistake. So those of you who have Amex cards that earn the annual airline credits, that'd be like the Platinum card, the Amex Gold card, the Aspire card, they all come with annual airline credits, and those credits are calendar year benefits, so January 1st to December 31st. And we maintain a resource with what still works in terms of using the credits. We maintain a resource about what works for triggering those credits. Of course, things like bag fees and seat upgrades and stuff like that, or seat selection, all that stuff is supposed to count. But there are other things that count too sometimes that you might not expect. So we maintain a resource for that, and so I keep that updated. And I also published a checklist a few days before the end of the year, and I said, do these things before New Year's Eve. Like, get all this stuff out of the way. Of course, what did I do? But December 31st, last day of the year, here I am looking to use up my airline credits. And so I had a couple of cards that I had to use the credits on. Now, I had made a mistake earlier in the year, sort of, anyway. I was planning on flying United, and so I had changed my airline to United in order to be able to cover bags and to do an upgrade fee to Economy Plus seating. Long story that I'm not going to get into. I wasn't able to use the cards to pay for the Economy Plus seating, so I had United chosen as an airline, but hadn't actually used up the credit. And in fact, I ended up getting the Economy Plus seating for free, so I kind of felt like, well, that's what the credit was
sort of a wash,
yeah. Sort of a wash anyway, so I hadn't been like laser focused on using it.
Right, okay.
Ordinarily, in years past, Southwest has been my airline of choice because, as we pointed out in posts before, award fees on Southwest trigger that credit, and I book a lot of Southwest awards, some of which I fly and some of which plans change, and I get those credits on Southwest awards every year. But I switched mid-year to United this year because I was flying on United. So I had these credits left over to use on United. So I went to our resource page to see what would trigger it, and with United there just isn't very much.
Yeah, they're like the worst, aren't they? For that particular credit, I mean. Yeah.
Absolute worst for that credit.
Yeah.
And if you want to pay for your bag fees, and I did pay for a couple of bags, great. If you want to pay for onboard purchases, which I did, I bought some snack boxes and those got reimbursed. If you want to pay for Economy Plus seating, and you can, that should also trigger it. But unfortunately, at the last minute on December 31st, there's not very much you can use it on. One of the things is United Club passes. So I said, well, you know what? I'm going to probably fly United a few times this year. I've got some vouchers and whatnot. So I'll get some club passes. That way the family can get into the lounge. Now, backing up the truck a little bit, because I was planning on using the airline credits on several seats for Economy Plus seating, I had changed the airline to United on several different Amex cards. So, and then of course I had made the compounded mistake by using each of those cards for some purchase on United. So they were all partially used for United, had to be used for United. I couldn't change the airline because I'd already used part of the credit. So I went ahead and I bought club passes on like 3 different Amex cards to use up the remaining credits that I had for airline fee cards.
Oh boy.
I bought United Lounge Club passes on December 31st, and I was like, okay, I'm great, I'm good to go. Like, it's done on the 31st. As I've always told people, long as the charge is processed on December 31st, you're good to go. As long as it says December 31st on your statement, you're going to get the credit for that calendar year,
right?
Not the next calendar. Even if it doesn't post for a couple more days in terms of like the transaction being finalized, as long as it's got that 12/31 date, then it counts for that calendar year. But of course, as you may guess, if you're getting this far in the story, there's more to it. While the charge processed immediately in the sense that I got my United Club passes right away, it didn't show up on the Amex statements until January 1st. And I don't mean that it didn't show up like I didn't see it online. I mean like the charge is dated January 1st, 2020. That sucks.
It does.
Because that means both I lost out on using up the credits for 2019, which really wouldn't have been such a big deal because I felt like it was a wash since I got the Economy Plus seating anyway. So if I had it to do over again, I would be happy to just let those credits languish, because now the problem is I have partially used airline credits for United on 3 different Amex cards for 2020, and so now I can't change the airline on those anymore because I've used the credits partially on all 3 cards.
So is that a rule? I thought you had until January something or other to make a change.
Well, that's a good question. You are supposed to have until January something or other to make a change. But as far as I know, once you've partially used the credit, that's it. They won't let you change, I don't think.
I really think you should, 1, try to change it, but 2, if you can't, call Amex and just tell them what happened. Say you made those charges last year, and so you really wanted to switch to Southwest. I bet they'll let you.
I'm going to have to hope for that. I appreciate the forgiveness that's implied in that tone.
Oh, no, I don't forgive it at all now.
So don't wait until December 31st.
Never mind that I made a very similar mistake by ordering from Dell on December 29th, and Dell decided to not charge my card until January 5th or so. But that's the way it goes. All right. Well, you know what? I'll absolve you if assuming I have that power, since I made a similar sin.
Good. That's the way it works, I'm sure.
That's exactly how it works. Moving on. Reader feedback time. We have 2 reader feedbacks. Yes, 2.
Double.
So you get
double episode.
you get 2 for the price of 1. And you sort of get 3 for the price of 1 because the first reader feedback has 2 pieces of feedback in it.
Oh wow!
So 3 reader feedbacks, all for 1 low fee.
Wow. The same low fee.
The same low fee.
Speaking of fees, no, we'll get back to fees later on. Go ahead, the same low fee.
I was hoping we wouldn't bring up fees in this episode, but
I'm sure you were.
First, we're going to introduce Kathy, who emailed. She said she has been away and hasn't been listening to our podcast for a while and has been catching up, and so she wrote us a nice long email and had a bunch of feedback in it. I picked out 2 pieces. 1. She says, in the November 22nd episode, you were talking about the product changing with Capital One. I recently product changed from the Venture to the 0 annual fee Venture 1, and my miles are still live and available to transfer to airline partners. So that was just something we brought up in an episode. We weren't really sure what the state of things were with product changing in Capital One's credit card lineup, and turns out it's good. It works. It sounds like it works the same way Chase or Citi does, where if you product change, you keep your points.
That's awesome.
So that's awesome, yeah. Separately, this is Kathy again. Mm-hmm. Kathy says, separately, there was a more recent episode where you were talking about Greg stitching together award tickets on separate airlines. Another potential way to mitigate risk might have been to protect the legs you were concerned about with Freebird, though that would have only applied for domestic legs. So we were talking about how sometimes we can book, when we're booking awards with multiple different airlines, that sometimes there's a risk in that you might have a layover that you'd miss, and the first airline or second airline isn't going to protect you because you booked with 2 different airlines. So there's this app or something called Freebird where you could pay $19 for a one-way flight to kind of protect you from delays and misconnections. And what happens is what's supposed to happen, I haven't tested this out, is you get a text message from them when your flight is delayed that says, assuming you've paid for the service, of course, that says your flight is delayed, click here to rebook. And they'll rebook you on any airline that's available. It doesn't have to be the one you were originally on, to get you to your destination as soon as possible. And they'll do that for free, and there's supposedly people standing by to help you if there's any issues and all that kind of stuff. So I thought that sounded great. It is limited, though, to domestic flights, and Puerto Rico, I think, is one still U.S. based flight. So anyway, I thought that was a great suggestion and something that I kind of vaguely remember reading about Freebird when it came out, but I had forgotten all about. So
yeah, I see it come up in my Twitter feed, honestly, because I've seen other people writing about it working. So I have reasonable confidence that it works, because I've seen people mention it, people that I'm sure would not just say that it works if it didn't work, and friends have mentioned that it's been working for them. So I think that it is probably working well. I haven't used it either, but I thought that was a great suggestion when you were saying it, though. It's a terrific way to protect yourself. You have to position for flights domestically. I mean, yeah, that's totally worthwhile.
Yeah. Okay, then we have from Federal Orca. Greg, your 2020 predictions are off to another great start. Smiley face. Here's the part I wanted to talk about. Let's just hope you're wrong about the let's hope you're wrong about the Aspire's higher fee too. So I thought this was really great comment, because we know now, and we will momentarily talk more about it, that one of my 2020 predictions was pathetically wrong. Let's not talk about yet what prediction that was, but most of my other predictions were...
have a chance at still being right.
Well, yes, but let's hope that they're all wrong, because most of them were pretty pessimistic. So if I was completely wrong, then that means that Amex won't raise the annual fee on the Hilton Aspire, won't raise it on the Bonvoy Brilliant, and Hilton will add a significant new elite perk to their program. So hey,
so you may as well.
So
you're going to be wrong.
I want to go for 0%. That's what I'm going for this year.
You're off to a slamming start with that so far. Hopefully, we'll all end up thankful for your trend on
exactly. All right. Now, before we move into the theme of the day, we have a couple of pieces that I'm gonna call this the "in case you missed it" section. These are things we posted about you might not have missed during the week that we think are important enough to bring up again and talk about briefly. So first of all, I wrote about how you can book Singapore Airlines Premium Cabin Awards with Alaska miles. And the surprising thing here, there were two surprising things. One was a little bit surprising, which is that Alaska has far more access to Singapore's business class awards than does their other partners. So if you try booking with United, Avianca, whoever, you're not going to get those awards, whereas Alaska seems to have quite a few available. So that was a surprise.
That's really notable that other Star Alliance partners can't book the space that Alaska can, because ordinarily a non-alliance partner, if anything, would have access to less, right? Alaska has access to less Cathay Pacific premium cabin availability usually than One World partners. I would have expected the same with Singapore. The fact that it's opposite is surprising.
Yeah, so something interesting is happening here. Of course, they might fix it at some point, but for now, this seems to be true. And in fact, I booked one of these where you couldn't book it with other partners. Now, that's what I confessed last week, that I spent too many miles, but nevertheless, it proves that it's bookable in those situations. Now, the next thing I found was even more surprising, which is that there are times where Alaska has much more award space, or at least more access to business class award space than Singapore itself provides to its members.
Crazy,
yeah. So in some cases, I found that Alaska had saver level access, and Singapore had standard level access, so they would charge more, but they did have access to it. But there were other cases where Singapore didn't make those flights available at all to its own members, and Alaska did. And so you could take, for example, their flight from Newark to Singapore. I think that's the longest flight in the world right now, maybe?
Right now, I think it is, yeah.
And you can book that with Alaska miles, and it's much more available through Alaska than Singapore. How crazy is that?
That's unbelievable. I don't think anybody would have predicted that when the partnership kind of got off the ground, so to speak, in terms of being able to use miles to book. I don't think anybody would have predicted that being the outcome. So that's really notable, and I can't imagine that will last forever. The fact that Alaska can book seats that Singapore
probably
doesn't
not.
Make available
it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense at all. So if you're interested in booking Singapore Airlines premium cabin space, that's worth a look if you have Alaska miles, because I don't think that one's going to last forever.
Right. Now, I want to point out something else, because those who get our posts through email probably don't know that the first iteration of my post was wrong in some ways. And it was wrong in that I highlighted first class cabin awards that were available through Alaska and not through Singapore. And it turns out that I got stuck in the trap of not noticing that Alaska was showing mixed cabin awards. So Singapore doesn't show those awards at all. So Alaska has an edge there in that it shows them. But basically what it was like my example in my post, in the original post, I've changed it. But the original post showed that you could book using Alaska miles first class from JFK to Singapore via Frankfurt. And so that the first leg to Frankfurt is on the plane that has Singapore suites. So I thought, wow, that's amazing. Singapore didn't show this available at all. The second leg was on a different flight that doesn't have suites, but still first class is awesome, I've heard, with Singapore.
It is. I've flown
so
it.
You've flown it? Okay.
It's awesome, yeah.
So,
without the suites.
So that seemed incredibly awesome. Now, finding out later that the first leg was actually an economy was a huge bummer. On the other hand, the second leg was in first class, which is still not bookable with Singapore miles. So there's something potentially good there. So if you're willing to do that first leg in economy, unfortunately that's an overnight leg, but still, it does seem to be a way to sometimes get Singapore first class, which is very, very hard to book with miles
partner
in general.
Miles. Yeah,
and partner miles.
Certainly with
partner miles, we've only seen it when there have been glitches, which this again might be for all we know.
Might be.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So
that was. I think that was interesting, and I should mention, actually, I think it's worth mentioning for listeners who perhaps receive the email that is true, that our post content goes out via email, but when there's an update or a change in something that we make later on in the day, you may not see that update. So not a bad suggestion if you are receiving the emails and reading our posts in email, to, if you see something that's particularly of note to you, to maybe click through and read it on the website, because
good point.
Occasionally we do change things, and that happens also with quick deals, things like that. Things sometimes change. Portal payouts might change, or perhaps there's a better deal even, and so we may update that post later on in the day. It's worth clicking through to the site, I think, sometimes, in order to make sure you have the latest version.
And I'd go a little further. If it's a quick deal, especially, you're about to do some deal, click through and see if anything's changed, but also skim through the comments. Sometimes readers have posted something that is very important, good or bad, and so it's a great way to make sure you're getting the most out of these deals before you jump on them.
Yep. So that was, I think, a good reminder anyway. Click through and check it out on the site for all of those reasons. Yeah.
Now, the other thing particularly notable this week, hopefully you didn't miss it, is that many of us are getting Bonvoyed like crazy.
Now, you say many of us. Did it happen to you?
Not that I'm aware of, but I haven't stayed. Believe it or not, I haven't stayed at a Marriott property for a while now, so I would have to go back a while to look. But
do you have future award reservations with Marriott?
I do, but none that I'm planning on keeping at this point. So
Yeah. So, but still, you may want to take a look. You're right. If things change though, and you decide to keep it, you want to take a look at your account. So, Greg's a
Absolutely.
great example here that he hasn't looked at his account apparently to check and see if he's been bond buoyed by this yet. And you definitely want to check because.
Why don't you explain what's going on?
All right. So what's happening is that some properties have changed in category, or some properties have gone to peak pricing. When Marriott introduced their peak pricing and off-peak pricing, they said that those prices would change every month. However, when you book, you lock in your price. So if I book a property right now and it's off-peak and I pay my points for the property right now, and then next month it goes up to peak pricing, I still keep my off-peak price. At least that's the way it's supposed to work. But what's happening to a lot of people is that at some point in the middle of the night, overnight, on some random day, their reservations are getting rebooked at the higher rate. So what's happening is Marriott is refunding the original booking and then taking out more points for the peak pricing or for the category increase. And all you receive is an email confirmation as though you just made a new booking, which you might not think twice of if it's a property you already have booked and it's the same dates in the same room. You may not even notice that there have been more points taken out of your account. And so Marriott has been doing that not only in advance, sometimes months in advance and months after making a reservation. We've had comments from readers who made a reservation 4 months ago that's not for another 6 months, that repriced last week and took more points out of their account. It's also happening during the stay. People have said that they have checked in, and the next day after checking in, they've received a new email confirmation for their stay where more points were taken out of their account for a stay that is in progress. We've also had people who had free night certificates in their account, and after check-in, their reservation again has gotten refunded and the free night certificate has been used even when it's not a property where they wanted to use that free night certificate. So, moral of the story is, keep a close eye on your Marriott account. This has to be an IT glitch. I hope that Marriott will get this figured out, but in the meantime, I can't imagine how many people are out there who probably have lost points and just not even known it.
I know. It's absolutely terrible. And the way Marriott accounts for point reservations, at least how they show it in their activity log, it's so incredibly confusing. That's always been a complaint I've had with Marriott ever since I started staying at Marriott's at all, is that instead of showing, this much was subtracted due to a change, it sort of like reverses out the entire thing and just shows the overall amount as if it was one transaction. And so you can't possibly follow what was going on. There's
especially if you have a lot of award reservations. It's really, really difficult to follow. There's not enough information about what's attached to what. So really, you got to keep a close eye. You need to read the post and take a look at it and read the comments from people and go to Flyer Talk. We had received a comment in our Frequent Miler Insiders group, and that's what led me to this. Initially, when I read it, I was like, that can't be right. She must have had something wrong there, or account got hacked or something. And then I started looking for more data points, and I was just amazed at how many data points I was seeing, because that has to represent such a tiny portion of the number of people it's happened to. I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't know. So.
Yeah. So I know that most people reported they've been able to get it corrected by calling it. Some people it hasn't been easy, but some people it was. What about with those certs? When a, let's say, 50K cert was used for a 15K property, what's been the resolution? Do they get 50K points back? Do they get?
Haven't seen a resolution at all on that.
Really?
And in fact,
okay.
All of the people that I've seen anyway that had this happen on a stay and didn't realize until afterwards are still waiting on points. And the crazy thing is that people are receiving an email after check-in. Presumably they're on vacation. They might not even be looking at their email that closely, that their stay has been rebooked. Now, the people who caught it right away have been able to get the points refunded, but the people who haven't caught it until a week or two after checkout have gone through one call after another.
Ouch.
Marriott rewards being promised that, you're going to get the points back, we're going to fix it. But it's been weeks in some cases and no resolution yet for those people. And with the free night certificate, it's really hard because that just disappears from your account. And again, it's tough after the fact. Let me back that up. Marriott seems to know there's a glitch, and most agents seem to know that there's a glitch. However, not all agents know everything, and we know that is true, that agents are often wrong, and some agents have given misinformation and told people, no, it just reprices and they can reprice at any time. So don't be amazed if you receive an agent that doesn't know. But let's put that aside for a second. How do you prove that you didn't rebook the reservation?
Right,
I mean,
right.
Who else could rebook your reservation, right? So if you're an agent that doesn't know about this, you got to
Yeah.
look at this and be like, well, clearly you did that.
Right.
The computer system didn't do it. So, and how do you prove that I didn't make that change? So it's really a terrible situation to be in. I don't know what's going to happen to the people who had the free night certs. I would hope Marriott will just refund them in points, but and I would hope that Marriott would do more.
Or they'll reissue the certs.
I haven't heard of anybody receiving any kind of compensation over and above just getting their points back.
Right, for all the headache.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, all right. So we already have a entry for next year's naughty list.
Right.
We're getting a head start on a
at the
post
top.
for next December.
I won't forget that one. That'll be there up at the top. My goodness. Yeah. So that'll be in our naughty and nice list. Now, in our post next year about predictions,
Yeah.
one of the things that I'm sure will be right at the top of that will probably be a link to our FM on the air this year, because hopefully,
Yeah. Last week we talked. Was it last week? Yeah, last week we talked through all of our predictions for the year.
we sure did. And just quick flashback for the people who weren't here for it with us last week.
I predicted that Chase will not increase the annual fee of the Sapphire Reserve.
So that's out there. So Greg, like a week ago, right, you said that Chase was, and you argued that Chase was not going to increase the annual fee. That prediction lasted like just a little bit over a week. Before
Yeah.
it was gone.
Didn't I even sort of tease you and say that I was going to play the clip of you saying that they
did.
would raise it, and I'm not going to be doing that now.
No, you're not. You're not.
Chase has just been waiting in the wings to burn me. So as soon as they heard last week's podcast, they were like, "Ooh, we can get him now. We're going to raise the price right now."
Something must have happened because, yeah, I mean, that one, like, that has to be a record for the one that became wrong the fastest.
Right.
Nobody gets them all right, but yeah, everybody likes to make their predictions for the year. Most people don't get them wrong that quickly, but
right.
But,
So I feel good. I'm number one.
Right, number one.
Number one fastest wrong prediction ever.
But you know what? I'm interested to hear what you think about the change. So, obviously,
Yeah.
for those who somehow have been hiding under a rock the last couple of days and haven't heard, Chase is indeed increasing the annual fee on the Sapphire Reserve, much to Greg's dismay, to $550 per year, and that's going to start January 12th, I think is what we had said, January 12th. The fee for new applicants will go up, and for existing card holders, I think if your anniversary date is after April.
Right. Sounds like it'll actually be January 13th as far as how things actually happen. So January 12th looks like it's the last full day to apply.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you. Yeah. Good point. So that's going up, and Chase is adding some benefits. They're adding a DoorDash pass. They're adding more points per dollar on Lyft. Sapphire Reserve holders are going to get a Lyft Pink membership for a year. What do you think about all this, Greg? I mean, like, I know you didn't think it was going to happen, so
yeah.
Now the future you didn't expect has come true. How does it feel?
So my initial gut reaction at seeing this stuff was, oh man, I'm probably not going to keep the card long term. That was just a gut, reaction of the benefits that they said they were adding in exchange for the $100 extra annual fee. On the surface, didn't look to me like nearly equivalent. But then I, took a step back and dived into them a bit and said, well, how good are these benefits? And let's talk first about the DoorDash thing. So DoorDash, I didn't even know what DoorDash was before, but it's a food delivery service like Grubhub. I think. And I think the membership gives you basically free delivery. Does it give? I don't know if it gives you anything else besides.
No, free delivery. And I think you still pay the service fees if there's a service fee.
Yeah. So you save a few bucks per delivery. It's good. But they also are giving us $60 credit or like an instant rebate each year for DoorDash purchases. And they're not, one of the things that I find really, really good is they're not splitting it up the way the Amex Gold does. Amex Gold, you get the $10 per month Grubhub and other restaurants, but credit. But if you have a $50 order, you're only getting $10 off, and so you have to use those credits every single month to get the full $120 value. In this case, $60 value, one big order or two medium orders, you're going to get back your money. And so I like that a lot. Being forced to use DoorDash instead of Grubhub or whatever else I want to use once or twice a year is not very difficult. And in fact, with the free delivery, maybe it would be better than the other services. I don't know. I'm willing to give it a try and see, make sure the prices are reasonably similar. So I like that. So to me, the $60 credit plus the free delivery, I'm personally valuing that at about $50 per year. So meaning I'd be willing to pay $50 a year for the combination, $60 instant credit and the no delivery fees.
See, I value it even more.
Really?
And I know that people are going to tell me, oh, the time cost of money this, and you're prepaying for that. And Greg is right to say that generally you should value those benefits. It's like what would you pay for a subscription to those benefits? That totally makes sense. I get that perspective. But with this amount of money, with the $60, I know I'm going to order more than $60 worth of food from a delivery service at least a couple of times a year. And I am not going to menu comparison shop and see, is it cheaper on Uber Eats or cheaper on Grubhub or cheaper on this or that. When I get to the hotel and it's late and I'm hungry and I've got a hungry toddler, I'm just going to order from the first one that I'm used to ordering from. And that's the way I live my life right now. Sure, I could probably buy Uber discounted gift cards and use Uber Eats or something like that. I use DoorDash, I use Grubhub right now just because the Amex Gold has the $10 monthly credit. And so I don't think about it. I just use it. It's just automatic. Just as well to me to switch that to DoorDash. I don't really care. I'm not going to pay that close attention to it. I'm going to save a few bucks probably because of the no delivery fee. So even if it's a little bit overpriced, it's probably a wash. And yeah, I'm willing to pay the $60 for $60 in credit to have it be a no-brainer. Simple. I just pull up DoorDash. I don't have to think about, which app am I going to order from? No, I'm going to order from DoorDash because I get my $60. So that to me is worth it. Now you're going to say, why would you pay $60 in advance for $60 worth of food? I know that's what you're going to say. And what I'm going to say is there are thousands of listeners out there right now who have a Starbucks app on their phone, who reload their Starbucks balance with a credit card and use that phone at Starbucks to pay rather than pulling their credit card out of their pocket. You prepay $20 for $20 worth of coffee. What's the difference between doing that and $60 worth of food? It's the same kind of thing. I do that with Starbucks.
Okay, but
why would they do it with DoorDash?
So I kind of get it with Starbucks because it's super easy. They make it so it's kind of like fractionally easier than using a credit card to pull up your app and
I mean fractionally. But DoorDash makes it easier because I just pull up one app instead of trying to figure out which app. Makes about as much difference, right?
I don't get it. So you're paying to get locked in.
Yeah,
you're actually
paying to get locked in. Yeah, but
you're insane.
I'm gonna spend that $60 no matter what.
But all right,
$60, same difference to me. It's worth $60.
Hold on. Let's just say your argument made any shred of sense at all, which it doesn't. Let's just say it does. What about the Amex Gold? So now you've got this $10 a month credit. I know you love the Amex Gold, so you're not getting rid of it. If you switch away from Grubhub, then now you've got to worry about, are you eating at the
Shake Shack
Cheesecake Factory or whatever every month, right? What?
Or not worry.
Doesn't this cause
really
problems for you?
I don't really worry about that particular benefit. I've been using it sometimes because that's that's the card that I have loaded in Grubhub, and so I do use it when I use Grubhub. But whether I use that or don't use that, don't get any use out of it, not really a big deal to me. So that to me is a very small benefit of the Amex Gold card. I don't use it every month.
Oh my God! So you're paying $60 to get locked in and to avoid the chance of getting $120 a year from Amex.
I'm never going to get $120 a year from Amex because I can't get Grubhub delivery at home. I only get it when I'm traveling somewhere. So
all right.
I have to happen to be traveling and want to order Grubhub or whatever else, which is the same case with this credit, except I'm going to use this credit all at once. I'm going to use that $60 up in one order, whereas I'm going to get $10 a couple of times a year from Amex at best. I'll get this whole $60. It's easy, simple.
Have you looked into this? Just as an aside, have you looked into boxed? I mean, can you order diapers or something at a reasonable price and
Every
just
time
go on
that
a
I've
subscription?
I probably could, but
Mm.
every time I've looked at box,
Yeah.
they seem overpriced compared to what
Okay.
we've been paying for stuff.
Right,
So
right.
that's why I haven't used it.
Yeah.
Diapers specifically and wipes and things like that we looked at, and they just weren't cheaper than what we were paying. So
Yeah,
it
yeah.
hasn't seemed worth it to me. I could probably hunt around for something on box that would be worthwhile.
Whether it's worth the effort, I don't know, but maybe.
But there you go.
But-
So you made my argument for me. I can use the $10 credit at box. I'm not giving anything up. I'm going to spend $60 on dinner.
I'm just trying to help you make less of a terrible decision.
That's $60
You're
that's going out of my pocket no matter what.
I have a hard time. So if
difference.
let's say this Chase thing had never happened, and DoorDash, the DoorDash salesperson shows up at your door and says, "Have we got a deal for you? For $60 a year, we're going to give you a Dashterly membership. I forget what that's called.
Right.
Some kind of membership, Dash Pass membership."
Dash. Whatever it is.
Which will give you free delivery, and we're going to give you $60 worth of food. Are you going to buy that?
If I'm working on a minimum spend, maybe. If I'm working on a category bonus, possibly. I'm going to probably spend that on something similar. No.
Okay, so salespeople out there, I'm gonna sell you Nick's address so you can show up and sell
Small
them
win.
terrible
Small win.
subscriptions.
The delivery fee alone, probably. Well, I mean, the $6 or $5 or whatever it is, I end up paying on Grubhub every time I order. I think it's like $6, the delivery fee usually, right? So the $6 each time over time, I mean, it has to more than make.
I thought it was just a couple bucks, but I don't know. Anyway,
I
so,
value
so you know what? We're arguing over
Throwing
ten.
caution to the
We're arguing over $10
We are arguing
over
over
$10 a year. So it's not a big deal that Nick is so terribly wrong. So okay, so
I mean, the free delivery fee may end up saving you more. It may be worth more than $60.
it's true. They might. Moving on. So Lyft. So we're gonna get 10 points per dollar by linking our Sapphire Reserve into the Lyft app. That seems pretty darn good to me. Now I know in your post you pointed out that for the moment it's not very good because anyone with the SoFi debit card can get 20% back. I think it is, right? But that deal ends at the end of February, I think.
Yes, correct. Yes, it ends February 19th.
So let's just set aside that, let's just think of that as that's like a temporary separate deal. I don't ever that I can recall have seen Lyft like gift cards available at a discount or anything like that. But
not that I recall. We see Uber gift cards on discount quite often.
Right.
Maybe 15 every now and then, 20% you can get on an Uber gift card.
Yep.
But not usually with Lyft.
Right. So at least with Uber, you could get similar savings or rewards, if you want to think of it that way, by going the gift card route. But this is just super easy, right? Just link your Sapphire Reserve, pay for your Lyft rides with it. You don't have to think about it. You're getting a great rebate. That I can't argue with that, the value of that, as long as you use Lyft. Now, personally, I don't use Lyft very often, and the reason is that while there are some cities where Lyft seems to be the default go-to thing, that there's millions of Lyft cards, like I remember seeing that last time I was in Chicago, most places I go to, though, that's not the case. You usually pull up the Lyft app and it says next drive will be in 15 minutes, and the Uber app says 3 minutes. Now they're both lying because, but
It's just a matter of which one's lying.
But the point is, it at least appears that Uber has a lot more cars, and so I usually choose that. And plus, sometimes Uber's cheaper, but sometimes Lyft is cheaper. It seems to be a little random as far as I can tell them. So I don't highly value that, more because I don't ride Lyft often than, I actually think it's a great benefit. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's a very good benefit. I think that the pass getting you the 15% discount and supposedly priority pickup and that sort of thing. I think that's nice for a year. I think that'll add up over time.
So let's dive into that in a sec, but
So I think that earning 10x is pretty much unheard of on one particular merchant. You don't see that very often. The Capital One Venture card is offered 10x at Hotels.com, and that's going to end later on this month. Apart from that, I can't really think of a time when a card is offered 10x, and certainly not 10x that's as valuable as Ultimate Rewards points. At the same time, I could buy discounted Uber gift cards and probably save, I would say, a comparable amount as to what I'm going to earn in additional rewards by using Uber instead. Of course, there's a lot of complicated math there. Is Uber cheaper than Lyft or Lyft cheaper than Uber, depending on where you're riding it? At the end of the day, what I'm saying here is that I don't think 10x is as amazing as it seems on the surface, but it's certainly better than not getting 10x. And to me, the difference between Uber and Lyft has been pretty minimal. I haven't noticed the issue of Lyft having many fewer cars on the road, but probably because I've mostly used it in like Chicago and Las Vegas and places where it certainly does have a pretty big presence. So I guess that really varies, and I'll be curious to see how that plays out over the course of the year. I'll definitely be using the Sapphire Reserve, though, and Lyft over Uber in the short term.
For sure. I'll definitely also start with Lyft and only switch to Uber if Lyft is not going well. So now let's talk about, so they have one other perk, which is this Lyft Pink membership. And first, just broadly, what's weird about this is that they're not saying you get it every year. What they're saying is you get 1 year of it. And that's reminiscent of the WeWork benefit that the Business Platinum card used to have. Same deal. They said, as a card member, you get 1 year from starting whenever you sign up. And they're doing it the same way. Whereas the other benefits, the other perks, they're saying we get them for this year and next year. And I'm pretty sure the idea is that they don't want to lock in with this particular partner forever. And so they're leaving it open-ended. They might renew for the year after that. They might switch to a different perk with a different partner. Who knows? But I don't have the impression that those are like intentionally limited as much as they just want to cover their bases. That's my guess, that they probably have a contract with these sponsors that lasts until the end of next year, and so that's what they're guaranteeing. That's my take, and that copies what Capital One did with Hotels.com, and before that they did an Uber benefit. They always had them for a certain amount of time, and I'm sure that's because they had some kind of contract with those sponsors that was limited, and so then they go try to find something else once that ends. So,
and I assume it's limited on the partner end potentially as well, wanting to find out how this works out for them too. If this works out to be a beneficial relationship for them. I think in the case of Lyft, I have to imagine Lyft is going to see a significant uptick in business, because I imagine that anybody with a Sapphire Reserve is going to be looking to Lyft first, at least for the next year. And then
I think this is a huge coup for Lyft. I mean, because before this happened, Uber was most people's default rideshare app, I think. And now all these Sapphire Reserve card holders are going to be saying, well, gee, I might as well pull up Lyft. Why wouldn't I?
Right. I mean, of course you would. And in my case, I've defaulted to Uber not because of more cars on the road, just because that's been my habit for years now. Uber's the one that sits on my home screen. It's my habit to use Uber. And I have friends who prefer Lyft and have said, oh, you should use it. And I've used Lyft in, like I said, in Chicago and Las Vegas, a few places, but not very many places. And it's mostly just a matter of habit, and Lyft is about to totally change my habits for a solid year. And so their hope, I'm sure, is to make that a permanent change and have me just using Lyft out of habit beyond that, whether or not they offer a partnership with Chase. So I wonder what Lyft's long-term plan is there too, if perhaps they didn't want to commit to more. I find it interesting that Chase is offering 10x on Lyft for 2 years with the Lyft Pink membership for 1 year. I wonder if that's not part of the experiment too, for Lyft, to see if the year A encourages you to buy into the membership in the future, or B makes your habit strong enough that it doesn't matter. They don't have to give you that particular benefit. in order to keep your business.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's the first one that they're betting that people will try Lyft Pink. Some percentage will like it and then pay the, what is it, like $19 a month or something like that.
Which is a really good point, actually. Now that you mentioned that, that brings me back to DoorDash for a second, because when we were talking about it before, you asked, would I pay $60 for the $60 gift card and the DoorDash dash whatever the Dash membership is that gets
right.
you the free delivery. And what I thought of after we talked about it was, well, some people pay for that. Some people
right.
pay for that membership
sure.
alone. Right?
Sure.
And the
yes.
same thing with Lyft Pink. Somebody out there is paying $19 a month for it. Now,
maybe
that somebody is not necessarily me. It isn't me in either case. But if there was a deal that said, "Hey, buy a $60 DoorDash gift card, get a free Dash membership, whatever Dash Pass membership," would I buy that? I might. You kind of suggested that with the salesperson coming to my house, but I might, because I'd figure, I got nothing to lose.
Right.
I'm going to order it anyway, and
right.
I have a
right.
little bit to gain potentially. Why not? So same thing with this. I think giving you the membership is giving you something that some people do pay for. Now, I don't value it at whatever the $19 a month that they charge for it, because I'd never pay that. I don't take Lyft enough. However, it does have some decent benefits.
Yeah, so what are the benefits now?
So, well, I say some decent benefits. It has a decent benefit. The decent benefit really is 15% off of all rides. Now, I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work. A reader brought up in the comments that Lyft often offers promotions of like 10% off or 15% off your next 6 rides, but it's up to $10 worth of the
right.
ride.
Those
it doesn't include
tend to be
tip,
like
and,
really like pathetic.
They're like $1 off, basically.
Yeah.
Not really 10 or 15%.
Right.
If this is really 15% off the ride, then I think it's useful. If it's 15% off the first $10, I mean, it's $1.50 each time. I'm not going to take it enough times for that to add up to be super worthwhile to me. But I think if it's 15% per ride, I'm going to be pretty interested.
And certainly people who ride share all the time, that can be huge. And I'd understand why they would subscribe to this. And so for those that would subscribe, then this is a huge one-time perk of getting 12 months of that subscription. So 12 times 19, whatever that is.
Yeah, it certainly is.
It's like 200 and something.
It excites me, especially if that 15% off does work the way that we intend, because, as a non-Hyatt globalist, I sometimes stay at other properties, non-Hyatt properties, when I'm traveling in different places, and usually they don't include free parking. So the decision as to whether or not to rent a car often, especially in big cities, hinges on how much it's going to cost me to park. Now, if I can do a guest of honor booking at a Hyatt somewhere and get free parking, then I may lean towards renting the car. But there are a number of times now where I haven't rented a car, so then I need a way to get from the airport into the city, and it's usually using Uber. So now it'll be Lyft instead, and those are fairly expensive rides. The only reason I'm doing it is because the parking is even more expensive than what it's going to cost me to get from the airport in and out. So I take airport rides a few times a year using a ride share, and the 15% on those is going to add up to be a decent savings, I think. And then when you tack on 10x on top of that, then we're starting to talk pretty interesting.
Yeah. Now, I think they have another really cool perk in there, which is the free bikes and scooters.
Yeah, that is interesting if you live somewhere with that. Have you seen that?
So yeah, when I was last in Austin, I saw that both Lyft and Uber let you rent certain scooters. I didn't see about bikes, but this is probably true with bikes too. Certain scooters, even if they're not like certain scooters from other companies, and I don't remember which ones they are, whether they're Spin or Bird or whatever. But the idea is you're just using your regular app, unlock the scooter, and ride off. And so if you live in a city like that and are open to taking that kind of transportation, I mean, I think that'd be absolutely huge, because you're probably doing that, for many people are probably doing it a couple times a day. Right. And so that's going to add up really quick.
Yeah, no, you're right. And that is a cool benefit, nice way to zip around a lot of cities. One tip I'll give you if you're going to do that is to bring a helmet. Those things can fall over you. I have one of those little Segways at home, and I'm very good on it, but I also got a little crazy a couple of years ago. And I mean, I fell a couple of years ago, and the scar remains. So, you just got to be careful. I was glad I had a helmet that day, because I would have really smacked my head hard on the pavement if I hadn't. And that was just me being silly and kind of doing some tricks and stuff that I shouldn't have been doing on it because I felt confident because I'd been using it for a while. Same thing I imagine can happen with those scooters, so be careful out there.
That's a good point.
But I think that is a really awesome benefit to have, and especially with the bikes too. The bike can be a great way to get around a city that you haven't visited before.
Without question. And I just point out that it's especially valuable for those who live in cities like that because obviously they will have more frequent access to that. And then especially if you live in a place like Austin where you're more likely to be able to ride them year round than a place where, like where I live, where if they had them, I still wouldn't use them in the wintertime.
Right. Yeah, I think that is a potentially interesting benefit anyway. So there's two. And then the other benefits are all kind of like soft, priority pickup.
Right. We don't really have any idea how to value that. The thing about being able to cancel some rides, though.
It says relaxed cancellation, but what does relaxed cancellation mean? Do you have any idea?
I don't. I'm just sort of assuming that it means that they won't charge you for a ride when you cancel, when you make a request and cancel, which
that'd be great. It doesn't say that, and that's
okay.
There are times I'm sure where it's going to. It says relaxed cancellation policy, so perhaps you have a greater window to cancel, but they didn't define that.
That could be
it.
Didn't
say what that's going to be. It would have been easy for them to say free cancellation, free ride cancellation, but they didn't. So I'm thinking that it's not totally phrased, just a matter of what maybe you have a bigger window or.
I'm just picturing that when you cancel, you get some dude who's toking it out going, yeah, man. Sure, no problem.
No worries.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you'll be charged, don't worry.
It'll be relaxed. Right, exactly. So overall, though, I think that this Lyft partnership is pretty interesting. Like you said, a major coup for Lyft.
Yeah. Now, but for me, because I don't ride Lyft very often, and because I still have a Amex Platinum card that has the $15 a month Uber credit, I don't foresee myself using Lyft for a while, as long as I have the Platinum card. Beyond my first ride, like I would do my first ride a month with Uber. And then if I remember that I'd done one, and if I have more than one in a month, then I would switch to Lyft. But I don't know how often that's going to happen, and probably not often.
Yeah,
so,
I don't have a personal Platinum, so I don't have that problem.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, so the point is, so I decided I would pay $15 a year for this bundle of benefits. What about you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would be willing to pay 15, but I haven't actually figured out what I would value that at. But here's my thought at it. I looked at the DoorDash benefit as being $60 worth to me. So I need to be able to get at least 40 out of Lyft for it to basically be a wash as to whether or not I was already thinking of canceling. But if I was going to keep it at the $450, then I would keep it at the $550 as long as I get $100 out of those benefits. And I think it's pretty easy to get $40 out of the combination of 10x. So what do you need in order to get $40 worth of points, like $260 worth of Lyft rides or so at 10x? Or I guess it's really an additional 7x, so maybe math changes a little bit on that. But between the 15% off and the pretty low threshold in terms of how much you have to spend to get enough value, I think that I'll pretty easily get the $40 out of that I need to in order to.
Well, I mean, if you did $300 worth of rides, if the 15% off works the way we think, then you're saving 45 right there.
Right.
But personally, there's just no chance that I would do that again because of the circumstances. But if you spend a lot of time in Chicago, I know, so maybe you can do that.
I do. I'm sure I spend more than $300 a year on ride shares right now.
Mm-hmm.
The issue with Lyft is that, of course, they're not very international. I don't know if they have any international.
Well, not only that, the benefits don't apply internationally.
Right. Well, so I was thinking more so from the habit standpoint of getting the habit of using Lyft, but you're right, that too. So I don't know how that'll play out for me, but I'm sure that I spent more than $300 in ride shares in the United States last year, so it should be pretty easy for me to get enough out of that. Now, one thing I want to mention, a reader pointed out a really good short-term play potentially. We'll see on Sunday how this works out because I intend to test it. But when that Lyft Pink membership goes live, which starting Sunday, you should be able to activate the Lyft Pink membership as long as you have a Sapphire Reserve in your Lyft account and have that as your primary payment method.
Right.
So that should trigger the 15% discount. Now the reader said, well, okay, so once that triggers your Lyft Pink membership, can you change your payment method and pay with the SoFi Money card and get the 15% off from Lyft Pink and 20% cash back from SoFi Money? I intend to try to stack that, and that's only going to last for about a month. But
I'd be very surprised. I'd be very surprised if that doesn't work.
Me too. Me too. And the SoFi Money, I just saw a flight deal posted actually on Twitter that posted the 20% back posted the same day.
Oh, nice.
SoFi Money as the
Yeah,
lowlights.
yeah.
So SoFi continues to be impressive with that kind of thing. I talked recently about getting the ATM fee back. By the time I walked out of the store, it was back.
Right, that's amazing. Now, remind me, with the Lyft deal, do you have to register for that deal, or is it just automatic by using that card
Automatic.
to pay?
Use your SoFi Money debit card to pay. You get 20% cash back on Lyft rides, and again, that's until February 19th, I believe. We have a quick deal on it, but
Right.
I think you'll be able to probably stack that, and then that's a really nice savings. And I don't have
Sure it is.
any trips before February 19th where that's going to come in handy for me, but for people who do, that could be a nice savings on your rideshare.
Yeah. Almost makes me want to cancel my upcoming car rental, and but then I'm sure I would spend more even
Right.
with those discounts. So it doesn't make sense. So what's your overall? You had written back in December, I think, that you were not likely to renew the Sapphire Reserve. That's before we knew that the annual fee was going up, although it had been rumored. So you did include a little bit of thinking about that. But what's your thinking now that we've got $60 worth of DoorDash benefits and some unknown amount of Lyft benefits?
Well, I'm thinking that I'm glad that I have like about 9 months to figure this out and decide, because I'm interested to see how much I use Lyft and how much I save with it, because I think that there's a decent chance that I'll save enough that it may encourage me to keep the card. The 15% off on each ride might add up. Now, this year I tend to do less travel than most years, or at least not most years, less travel than last year for sure. Last year I traveled quite a bit, so this year I intended to kind of stay at home a little bit more. So I don't know if I'll use rideshare as much as I have in past years, but I do want to see how much I end up saving, whether or not the 15% works out the way that we intend for it to, and how many points I earn at 10x, because I think that's going to be a major factor. That $60, like I said, I consider to be a wash, so I don't really consider that in the calculation. So to me, it really comes down to how much I get out of the Lyft benefit. Am I going to save enough or not?
Although if you save a lot due to the Pink membership, that's still a one-time thing.
One-time thing. Yeah, I mean, it may still cause me to keep it that one additional year, though, because I will have at least quite a few months left of the Lyft Pink membership. I'm really going to have to run the numbers. I don't know. The true answer to the story is I may end up keeping the Sapphire Reserve just because we write about this stuff and it's convenient to have it to talk about how these things work. But if I'm doing a mathematical, should I keep it, I guess, then I think I'd probably be leaning still towards no, but I'll be curious to see how much I save with that.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So as I posted about yesterday, or 2 days ago, if you're watching or listening to this on Saturday, anyway, I don't know when you're listening to this.
Recently wrote about.
I wrote that
might be catching up on this like 3 months from now.
I know.
Thank you, Kathy. We're glad you're catching up.
I don't know what today's date is, so I can't figure it out. Anyway, I used my own spreadsheet that I've published to say, is the Sapphire Reserve worth it still with the new annual fee? And I continue to see that for me, the ability to get 1.5 cents redemption value is really big, and I'm valuing that very highly, which is ironic because about a year ago, I wrote that I'd never been using that feature, but that I had millions of Ultimate Rewards points, and I probably should start using that feature. And that was right. Like, there's no point in having all these points that you might someday transfer to get more than 1.5 value when I know realistically I wouldn't. And so I wouldn't do that many, all those millions. So I started using it, especially for like reimbursable travel. My wife's going to London or something. You book the flight, you get the receipt from the airline, she turns the receipt in, and then it's basically like cashing out points at 1.5. And so I've liked that, and it doesn't take that many points redeemed that way for the annual fee to be almost irrelevant, because it adds up very quickly. That extra quarter of a penny value per point.
You're right about that. And in my case, I don't know if I barely use it. I did use it. I barely used that benefit this past year myself. I guess I need a little bit more reimbursable frequent miler travel, Greg. But no, in seriousness, I just didn't use it much last year. The year before and the year before that, I used it more than I anticipated. So it's hard for me to predict.
It is hard.
How, am I going to use it a bunch or not?
Right.
I don't know. It's very hard for me to say. I don't value it all that highly because I don't look to that as my first use of ultimate rewards points.
Right.
That's like, the third or fourth or eighth thing.
Yeah. But I'll tell you another thing, even without reimbursable travel, what happens to me fairly regularly is I look at award flights, and then I look at what would it take to book, how many points, would it take to book the same flight straight up, or even a better flight straight up, and I see, I could actually, if points were equivalent, save points, book through UR, and and I actually earn miles on those flights. So
yeah, and the URs are easier to replace in many instances than individual airline miles. So
right.
So that's a good analysis and a good way to think about it. I tend to, most of my award flights are flights that would be way more expensive than what it would be worth with ultimate rewards. But if you are regularly traveling on routes where that's the case, then I totally think it makes sense to be using your ultimate rewards points that way, earning miles, earning elite credit, credit towards elite status if you fly enough or you spend enough on those Delta cards in order to earn elite status. Then definitely it makes sense to think about using the ultimate rewards that way. And so for a lot of people, I think that the CSR will still be a keeper. If they think about it logically, I think it will still be a keeper. I don't think that these two benefits are bad. The problem is that they're short term, and and that's the kicker. Like you said, with Lyft, the Pink membership only being a year and the DoorDash only being 2 years, what's going to happen? What's going to happen in the future? I don't know.
Sure.
So is it going to be worth keeping down the road? I don't know. Right now, I think so.
Right. I hope that they'll replace the Lyft Pink with something else when that goes away, but we really don't know.
No, we haven't seen any replacement from Amex yet on that.
On the WeWork? No, we haven't.
On the WeWork benefit. We haven't seen anything from Citi regarding all the benefits that they stripped away from their cards. So
right.
I don't know. Chase seems to be a follower at the moment.
They are.
Maybe
I never expected that, but they sure are. Wow.
Not add anything else.
One more thing. The Sapphire Reserve. I've been thinking about this. Should you apply right now before Monday in order to get in on the $450 annual fee for
That's
1 year?
Question.
And I've come up with an answer, an absolute answer.
I'm curious about your answer because it's not an easy one to answer because there's a lot of variables to consider. A lot of times when the annual fee is going to go up, it's a no-brainer. You apply now, right, and wait until that way you lock in the fee now. But in this case, it might not be. I'm sure you're going to explain why it might not be, but I think I know what your conclusion is.
Go for it.
I think you're going to say, of course, apply now because Chase is known for matching bonuses later on down the road. So if there's a better bonus, perhaps they'll match it. Or at least I think maybe you were tempted to say that. But that wouldn't be right because the fee's going up. And when the fees change, when there's a difference in annual fee, Chase usually does not match the higher increased bonus. Usually, I think, anyway, right? Isn't that the case with the Sapphire Preferred and that sort of thing? When it goes back and forth between the fee being waived or the fee not being waived, those offers, I don't think they match.
I'm not sure. And in fact, I had sort of forgotten the matching aspect of the question. Okay. So that I'm glad you brought it up, though, because that's a really important detail that people might have been expecting that they'd be able to match to a new offer if there is one, and so have their cake and eat it too, but we don't know that that's true. So that's why what my recommendation is to wait. And the reason is that I think that there will be an increased offer. Currently the offer is 50K points. If I'm right about there being an increased offer, and if it's even only 60K, that's still 10,000 more points, which are worth $100 if you just cash them out for cash, and worth much more if you use them in different, like for travel. So that seems like really easy. If you believe that they'll increase the offer at all, then wait. If you, for some reason, have reason to believe that they're not going to increase the offer a bit, then sure, go ahead and apply. But I think it's very likely they'll increase it. My pessimistic side says they'll just go to $60K to match the Sapphire Preferred offer. My optimistic but not outrageously optimistic side says $80K to match the Inc. Business Preferred's standard offer. And then the most optimistic side, but I wouldn't bet on it, would be that they would do another $100K offer as they did when they first introduced the Sapphire Reserve. But I actually think that's very unlikely. What about you?
I think it's very unlikely too. I think it'd be a smart move for Chase, because I think that would bring in a huge amount of press on their newly increased fee card. Their retention numbers have been really good on the 450. I think that would be a smart play on their end to increase it to 100K. However, this is what I think they should do if they're going to do that. Not what I want them to do, but what I think that they probably would be smart to do is to offer that 100K bonus, but make it tied to big spend. They've been doing this with the Southwest cards. They seem to have been testing it over the last year with various structures in terms of making you spend more money over the first 6 months or 12 months in order to trigger the full bonus. It's already the way that the Avios cards work, with the full bonus being triggered by spending $20,000 over the course of the year, I guess is what it is for the highest bonus on those cards. I'm surprised that they haven't done something like that to encourage people to spend on this card. So obviously they would probably like people to be spending at one ultimate reward point per dollar if they can get it. And so if you can get people to pay an annual fee of $450 or $550 and encourage them to put this at the top of wallet, it's the same as Lyft. You're trying to build a habit in people to use this card. And in many ways that happens to all of us. I'm sure that all of us have used a card sometimes. We've been like, oh, you know what, that wasn't the right card. It's just the card that I'm used to pulling out of my wallet. I should have used something else. I think that happens to a lot of us. So I think Chase should make it a 100K offer and make it something like $20,000 spend required to trigger the entire offer over the course of the first 12 months. That would be really smart, I think, on their part. I don't think they're going to do that. I think they are going to tie the bonus to a bigger amount of spend over a longer period of time, though. So I see something like the 70, 75, or 80K, somewhere in the 70 to 80K range. That's my guess, with a much bigger spend requirement.
Right, okay. Well, the good thing is we'll find out very soon.
We will.
Find out on Monday at the latest, if Dr. Credit doesn't break another rumor earlier than that, which he probably will.
So let's all hope that Greg is wrong again. It's not going to be 60K. It's going to be 100.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's keep that number going, Greg. Let's keep your prediction success on the right path.
All right, and then last thing to mention about signing up for that card is just don't forget that you have to be under 524, meaning you have to have not signed up for 5 consumer cards in the past 24 months in order to, or fewer than 5 in the past 24 months in order to be able to get approved for this card. You also cannot have received a bonus on this card or the Sapphire Preferred in the past 48 months. So if it's been
4 years.
Yeah, so if it's been less than 4 years since you received a bonus, the welcome bonus for either one of those cards, then you're out of luck. One other thing, if you currently have the Sapphire Preferred or the Reserve, you also can't get this. You could cancel, though, wait some amount of time, a week or so, and then apply, and then you should be able to get it as long as you meet the other 2 criteria.
And it's also worth noting that I saw just last night, and I didn't dig into it at all, but I did see and briefly skim the fact that apparently Chase is not allowing any product changes at the moment to the Sapphire Reserve. So I think if you have a Sapphire Preferred and you were hoping to product change to the Sapphire Reserve and lock in that $400 fee before the fee goes up, I think you're out of luck on that. They've already suspended that for now.
That's right. Yeah. All right.
Now, what I don't know, though, actually, and maybe you don't either, but that begs the question, are they still allowing Sapphire Preferred members or Sapphire members to product change to something else?
I don't know why they wouldn't be. You mean to product
Free up
change
the
to the
Sapphire
Freedom,
stuff.
for example,
Yep.
so that you can get the Sapphire Reserve? Yeah, I would expect that they are, and assuming they are, that's the right move rather than canceling it. Is to product change to a Freedom card. Even if you already have a Freedom card, you can product change to another so that you have more capacity for their quarterly 5X categories. Or you could product change to the Freedom Unlimited if you don't have that. I recommend everyone who has the Sapphire Reserve has a Freedom Unlimited as a companion card to get 1.5x everywhere, assuming you don't have another like great everywhere else card.
Right, right. And the combination is really the key. I was at the
Right.
doctor last weekend, and she was asking me about what's the best credit card for her to get, and I said, there's not one best. If you really want the best, you need a combination, and
Yes.
and so that's certainly something to keep in mind. What's your combination with that Sapphire Reserve going to be?
Very good. All right, that brings us to reader question time.
Reader question time, which is on the same topic. And I saw actually just before we started the podcast that you answered this reader. So Greg has already seen and answered the question, but I think it's a good question for everyone else out there, because I said just a little while ago that I may end up keeping the Sapphire Reserve mostly because it's convenient to be able to write about the benefits and to write about how excuse me, when flights are available through the Ultimate Rewards portal at 1.5 cents each and whatnot. So I'm in a unique position. Most listeners and readers are not in that position, so they have to consider it more from the value they get. And so reader Steve H. asked what I thought was a really interesting question. He said, I'd be curious on your take if you were going to limit yourself to one premium card, which would it be? And don't say the Ritz because most people can't get it. So which ultra premium card would it be? And so I already know Greg's answer, but I'm curious as to why. And obviously most readers don't know Greg's answer. So if you could only have one ultra premium card, either the Platinum or the Sapphire Reserve or the Altitude Reserve or the City Prestige or perhaps another one out there that I just left off the list, which one would it be?
Yeah.
And why?
Yeah. So
The Aspire.
it's funny that he said don't say the Ritz, because it certainly popped into my mind as one of the things I would have considered if I could only have one. But I still think even if the Ritz was in play, I probably still would pick the Sapphire Reserve, although there are reasons why I might pick the Ritz over. But anyway, why the Sapphire Reserve? So first of all, it has a decent Priority Pass membership. So unlike all of the Amex cards, it does allow Priority Pass restaurants to be reimbursed. So that's good, and it allows 2 guests. So it's not as good as the Ritz one, but it's good. But more important than that, it has great travel insurance, and more important than that, more than any other card, it fully unlocks the full value potential of Chase Ultimate Rewards points. So the question wasn't if you could only have one card overall. The question was if you could only have one of these ultra premium cards.
Right.
And so I am assuming I can still have my in cash, which gets 5x at office supply stores, that I can still have no annual fee, that I can still have my Freedom card, which is 5x at rotating categories,
No annual fee.
and so on, right? So as long as I can have those other cards, I can still be earning at a great rate. Sapphire Reserve earns at a great rate for travel and dining. Not best overall, there are 5x options, but still 3x is very good. And so overall, except for grocery stores, I would be doing really well with my earning. And then on the redemption side, I have, I can transfer to Hyatt and United. I can book flights and all these things at 1.5 cents value. So I think it would be a very solid option that I don't think if I had the Sapphire Reserve, I don't think I would feel like I'm really missing out that much on what people with other ultra premium cards have.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head with that. I think that the key difference is that the Amex Platinum isn't required in order to be able to pull your your membership rewards points and get great value. You could still have the Amex Gold and the Blue Business Plus and the other key membership rewards cards and transfer those to partners and unlock more or less the full value of those currencies. You don't need the City Prestige card to get anything special other than the 5x.
Other than better earnings, yeah.
Yeah, better earnings. So, and you can find your ways to do that within the Chase ecosystem with no annual fee. You can probably hit just about every bonus category there is with someone else, pretty close with Chase. So if you pair that with a Sapphire Reserve. So I agree, actually. And that's interesting because I've been talking about getting rid of the Sapphire Reserve, right? So it's interesting that I would agree with that. But if I were limited to one, I think that would have to be it. The thing that I like about the Platinum card is Fine Hotels and Resorts, for instance, except that Chase has their own program for that. So if I gave up the Platinum in favor of the Chase card, I would still have something more or less the same. I like getting 5x on my Prestige dining, but if I only could pick one, that extra 2x thank you points is not enough, I don't think, to give up all the travel protections that Chase has. So I think head-to-head, Chase does pretty well when you're matching it up against one option from the other issuers. Now, I think the Ritz is the one I would keep if it were between the Sapphire Reserve and the Ritz, probably. But even that is a tight race, and that's more so because of the other cards I have, because I keep my Inc. Plus, so I already have the ability to transfer to partners, and I don't use the 1.5x very much.
Right.
So in my case specifically, it's a little bit different, I guess. But I think if I could only have one ultra premium card, if I couldn't get any of those ultra premium benefits that I like from other cards, then it would have to be the Sapphire Reserve.
Right. Now, the Ritz, the hardest thing for me to give up, if I had to give that up, is the ability to have free authorized users who get free Priority Pass memberships. So I've done that for a number of family members. I'd hate to tell them, oh, that's gone, right? Now, it also has that airfare benefit, the $100 discount on round trip. What about you? What's the main Ritz feature that you would hate to give up?
Well, I mean, I think it's the combination. I don't think it's one. I think if I had to point to one, that $100 discount seems like it'd be the one that I'd pick, except ironically, it's the one I've used the least, but I like having it there.
Right.
The ability to be able to use it when I want. But it's a combination of having that there as an option and also having a $50K start every year and the $300 airline incidental credits that I do end up using for legitimate airline incidental spend. That's where my legit airline incidental spend usually goes. I don't usually monkey around with putting bags on United on my Amex Platinum. If I hadn't already used that credit, man, it brings me back to that mistake. Anyway, that's where typically all that legit. I do spend $300 a year on things like bags or seat selection and that sort of thing. So I think the combination of those things makes it easily worth more than the points. And then when you add the travel protections on top, it's got most of the key benefits to me of the Sapphire Reserve, while also having a decent collection of benefits on its own between the free night, the $300 in incidental credits, and then the potential to save some money with the $100. And I have used the Priority Pass multiple guests a number of times. We're traveling more and more with family and friends now than we did in the past. I think my wife and I have done a lot of travel over the years, and most of it's been just the two of us, and I think we've found more and more value now in taking trips with other people, because we enjoyed lots of those trips on our own. But I think it was my dad at some point said to me, it's really interesting because you guys have so many really unique memories that only the two of you are ever going to totally understand or remember. And he's right, and it's special in some ways, and in other ways it would be nice to have more of those memories that we've built with other people. So we've been doing more and more family kind of trips in the last couple of years, and so that unlimited guests is hugely important to me now, much more important to me now than it used to be. And then being able to give it to other people, I haven't done that, but having the ability to do that for somebody, I think, is also worth it. I would keep the Ritz over the Sapphire Reserve.
Yeah, and just a reminder to listeners that you can't sign up for the Ritz New, but it is still theoretically possible to get a Chase Marriott consumer card and wait at least a year since you signed up for it, and then call to see if you can product change to the Ritz, and you might still be able to. Now, we are both fearfully waiting for the shoe to drop on that card, thinking that it's likely to lose that airfare discount, that they might restrict Priority Pass, and that they might raise the annual fee. All those things are both possible and likely, I think. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to protect us.
You're going to make a prediction, aren't
I'm going to predict that those things are all going to happen, and they're all going to happen this
Next
year. They're all going to happen right away, and I have no doubt whatsoever. So, Chase, you can burn me by not doing those things. In fact, I predict it'll happen. No, not right away. I predict it'll happen eventually.
Eventually.
And so Chase has to never do those things in order to burn me.
That's
And you could burn me,
true.
Chase, if you're listening, you could burn me every year. So there's huge opportunity here with this prediction.
Again and again.
Again and again, forever and ever, burn me over and
Glutton for
over.
punishment here.
You know what would super burn me is if they actually made it better somehow, add some more benefit. Oh no, I'm getting too greedy.
I don't think that that's impossible either. That they, I don't think it's likely, but I don't think it's impossible that some of these benefits end up being benefits that get slid over to the Ritz card. Also, I'd love to see the DoorDash or Lyft or something like that also extended to other ultra premium cards. So, Chase, if you're listening to me, so far I haven't gotten any predictions wrong yet this year. I predict you're going to add more benefits to the Ritz card, guys.
Yeah, here's why I don't want them doing that. That means them looking at the Ritz card.
Ritz card.
I feel like most people at Chase have probably forgotten all about it, and
That's probably true.
I think that's good.
Better. So let's not mention it again. Chase, if you're listening, we'll cut that part out of the podcast.
Right. We'll apply our special technology that hides that whole part of the podcast from Chase listeners.
Hopefully, because I would like to keep that one in my wallet for a while.
All right. We'll get our technical team right on that.
Best we can.
All right. Now it's the saddest time of every show. We come to our goodbye song.
It sure is. A question for Greg that's not really a question for all the listeners, but have you set up our abbreviated goodbye song yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay, all right, just wanted to check. So we're going to have an abbreviated goodbye song coming next week. But for this week anyway, the abbreviated version is, if you're listening to this on one of your favorite podcast formats, since this is available on Spotify and Apple iTunes and Google Play and all those good places, and you'd like to find out more about what we're talking about, go to thefrequentmiler.com. That's our website, thefrequentmiler.com. You can find us on Facebook, Frequent Miler, on Twitter. You can join our Facebook group, the Frequent Miler Insiders, in order to connect with other people, ask and answer questions. And if you happen to be watching this online, you'll find us in all those podcast formats as well. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us all over the place. So just Google Frequent Miler and figure out all the places you can find us. You'll see links to the podcasts on our site. They're always in our Week in Review post, which posts every Saturday morning. So you can always find links if you've forgotten where to find our podcasts or what it's called. Then that's where you can find it if you're watching this online and you're looking to find it. So thank you guys very much. Thank you, Greg. Always great to have you here and be able to chat miles and points for a while. And thank you all the listeners out there sending us your feedback and asking your questions. Next week, you never know, you might be on reader feedback or reader questions, so keep them coming.
And we know from readers that it's super exciting to hear your name or your handle mentioned on the air. So yes, please do keep them coming. We enjoy reading and listening to them, whatever format they come in. I do really want to set up a call line so people can leave recordings and we can play them. We need to do that.